Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. So, dear authors and invited guests, welcome to the technical session 7A. Myself, Aarti Mohan, and this session would be moderated by me. On behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation and GR Scholastic LLP, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 10th International Congress on Information and Communication Technology ICICT 2025, London. The 10th edition of the conference is being organized in a hybrid mode. The physical event was held yesterday in London, and the virtual event is being held through Zoom from 19 to 21st February 2025. I hope you all would be enjoying this knowledgeable and interactive sessions throughout the day. In this session, we have 6 presentations. Each presenter would be given 12 minutes for the presentation and 3 minutes for the question and answer session round. On 10 minutes, I'll raise a gentle reminder. There's another request to all the participants that you all stay connected with us till the closing remarks. If you have any sort of query or any update, you can write it to me in the chat box. Just before we get started with the session, I would like to introduce you all to the chair for this session. We have Professor Kwong. He's an associate professor at the Industrial University of Ho Chi City, Vietnam. His expertise spans marketing, entrepreneurship, e-commerce, human resource, and tourism. With a strong academic and research background, he focuses on innovative business strategies, digital e-commerce, and sustainable tourism development. We have other session chair as well, Dr. James Stephen. He serves at Andhra University as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar full-time chair professor. This chair is a prestigious national chair under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. Additionally, James serves as a Dean of Andhra University's Transdisciplinary Research Hub and as a mentor for American Corner in Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. James Stephen holds more than 21 years of experience in teaching, administration, and research. James is an expert in amalgamating technology with social needs. It's a pleasure to have you both on board with us, sir. So I would request our respected session chairs to have a opening remark to all our participants before we just start with our presentations for the day. I would request our respected session chairs to provide an opening remark to all our participants before we just start with our presentations for the day. Okay, we would be moving to our first presentation, paper title, Accessibility Barriers in Complex Data Tables. Dear presenter, could you please start with your presentation?
Apologies, I was getting the slides up. So my name is Karen McCall, and this is an end user study. It's part of an ongoing series of research studies that I started back in 2015, looking at digital accessibility as it relates to people with disabilities. This particular study used Microsoft Forms with a series of checkboxes, radio buttons, and long answer questions. I did do a literature review, and most of the literature on table accessibility, data table accessibility, relates to very simple, basic tables. There was only one review on complex data tables, and I'll address that a bit later in the session. Screen readers, which are the primary adaptive technology that I was looking at, although the accessibility of complex data tables can be expanded to people with other disabilities other than blindness or visual disability. The focus was on screen readers in particular because if someone is using a screen reader, typically they are not able to see a complex data table. So the issue then becomes, how do they extract data from the complex data table? Screen readers have separate navigation and reading keyboard commands when working in tables than they do in working in the main body of a document. So a screen reader, if it's in a table, will only see the contents of that table. If there is a nested table, so a table within a table, the screen reader is only looking at the table that it's in. It does not have the capability to look outside of that nested table or outside of the table to any surrounding content. I've discovered there are several names for complex data tables. You can have a simple, well, not complex data tables. You can have a simple data table or a complex data table. The screen reader will announce a uniform table or a non-uniform table. And I also found the term regular and irregular tables used in the literature reviews that I found, typically because I do work in the community of people with disabilities and understand how screen readers work. I'm used to hearing uniform and non-uniform, but for the purposes of this research, we're using simple and complex data tables. This is an example of a simple data table. There are no merged or split cells. There are no headings or topic changes in it. So when a screen reader comes into this table, as long as the table headers, the column titles, and the row titles are identified clearly in the application, when someone gets to a piece of data, the screen reader will look to the top and read the column title, look to the left and read the row title, followed by the data, which preserves the relationship of information in the table. Without a table being created correctly, all that someone would hear would be the cell coordinates and the data itself. So the information, the relationship would not be available to them. A complex data table, this is an example of one of them, and this is the one that we see most often. There is a table that does have column titles, but then as you get down through the rows of the table, there are topic changes. Currently, there is no mechanism to quickly move to one of these topic changes in a table if you are interested in specific data. So for example, this table is a census table from the US, and the topic changes are United States, Alabama, and Alaska. So if someone using a screen reader was specifically interested in data from Alaska, they would have to go through the entire previous part of the table, or they would have to do find the word Alaska and then land on it and start reading. So there isn't a way to get to the data in this type of complex data table. This is another type of complex data table. It is related more to financial data tables. And complex data tables will often span more than one page. So being able to access the column titles and the row titles is essential. In this table, though, we do have a lot of empty cells, at which point the screen reader is simply going to say blank. And if someone hears the word blank several times, they're going to do some troubleshooting or some assuming and figure out that they're either lost, they're out of the table that they were in and into something different, or there's no information near where they are. Typically, those using screen readers don't explore an entire table. We start reading through data, and if we hear enough blanks, then it's very confusing. In addition, this table also has some dollar signs in a cell with no legend as to what that means. Does the dollar sign apply to everything across? Does it have a specific meaning? There are blank columns in this table that are used for design purposes. There is what looks like might be a topic change or might be some information that is relevant to the information in the data table that follows. So this is another example of a complex data table. And again, think of someone who is not able to see this table and is depending on audio output from a screen reader or a refreshable braille display output to provide information about the data in this table. The accessibility barriers in the table are the blank cells that I mentioned, blank rows or columns that have been used for design layout, merged cells or split cells, um, merged cells that are half of a row and not the other half of a row. So something that is irregular or non-uniform. Topic changes where someone can't access the topic change. And if I briefly go back to that, oops, table with the changes, if I come to the word Alabama and I move down, when I go to the first cell of data, I'm only going to hear 2020 and the text to the immediate left. There's no way to even associate the fact that the information I'm reading in the cell, the first cell of data related to Alabama, is indeed related to Alabama, because the only mechanism that we have so far in tables, whether they're simple or complex, is reading a column title and a row title. Symbols are often used in a table without a legend. You also have multiple data values in a table, such as percentages and negative numbers. If the negative number is not done using a Unicode character, it may be read as a dash instead of a minus. So that's something else to think of. The visual format does affect a cell's data values at times, and the table summaries have not proved to be effective. In some applications, you can add alt text to a table, or in the case of web-based tables, there is a summary attribute, but in some environments, the screen readers do not read that. So even if you tried to support the data in a complex data table, it may not be accessed by the screen reader. So solutions, we do need better table construction. And this comes to education. We have to teach the people who are using the screen readers how to read complex data tables, but we also have to teach the people who are creating tables and complex data tables specifically how to optimize those tables for accessibility. We have a lot of legislation in Europe, in the UK, in Canada, and Australia and New Zealand that relate to digital accessibility. The missing component for all of that legislation is teaching people how to create accessible digital content. We also need to create a unique method for navigating to different parts of a table. One of the things I've been advocating for since 2015 is a mechanism that I've temporarily called table nav that allows a screen reader access to those topic changes within a table while they are in a table so that they don't get confused with any of the topic changes in the main document. We also need a way to extract content from tables as an alternate format. This is where the one article that I found that talks about artificial intelligence, and it did not quantify which type of artificial intelligence, but using AI to extract data from complex data tables and provide that information to someone who is using adaptive technology or who can't visually decode what's in the data table. The problem I have with this at the moment is that we already have, to some extent, artificial intelligence in PDF viewers, so that if a PDF document is not tagged, is not accessible, we have a tool that says, hey, we'll try and figure it out for you. The problem comes when every time you open that inaccessible PDF document, you get a different result. So if someone is looking at a complex data table and depending on AI, we have to be assured that every time we use the AI tool, that we get a consistent result as to what the data is in the table. If we access the table once and we hear information about a particular topic in a table and we want to go back and double check it, it doesn't matter which AI tool we use, we have to be able to get consistent results as to what the data is in that table. And I'm not sure we're there yet. We're using artificial intelligence to decode mathematical equations, and even using the same AI tool on the same equation, we're getting different results in terms of what the equation is, what the components are. There are pieces missing. So AI isn't there yet, and it needs to be consistent. I will be honest enough to say that the same people who are developing AI are the people who have developed technology, digital technology in general, and are not taught how to create accessible technology or devices. I don't hold much hope for artificial intelligence or any type of AI considering accessibility in their product or consistency. That is my side comment. When I talked about my table nav example, here is a slide that has two graphics on it. The graphic on the left, and I'm from Canada, so I've used Canadian references. So in a document, someone using a screen reader can get a list of headings in a document. And typically headings are used to provide information about topic changes, where the topic changes are. So if we use headings in a table, they get mixed up with all of the other headings in the document. So getting that list of headings, someone using a screen reader has absolutely no idea whether they're in the main content of the document, whether they're going into a table, and navigating to a specific table cell is not the same as the concept of navigating to a particular topic change in the document. In the graphic on the right, I have gone through and added the table information to the heading. This would have to be done within the complex data table if we're going to use this type of solution. So you can see that I'm telling people in this particular example that table 1 Ontario, table 1 Quebec. If I go down to table 2, it's Kelowna, table 2 Victoria. So I'm letting people know that there are at least 2 tables in this list so far. And if they activate table 1 Kelowna, or table 2, sorry, table 2 Kelowna, they're going to go into a table. That would be the only indication for someone using a screen reader that when they navigate to that point, they're going into a table. What I would like to see, and the thing that I have been advocating for, is that once a screen reader gets into a table, they only see the table nav, the headings within the table. So all they're going to be able to do is to navigate within that table. They're not going to be able to navigate to any of the content outside the table until they leave the table. And that would allow for the type of complex data tables that have a lot of topic changes in them. If we had some kind of mechanism where when we're in a table, all we see are the topic changes in the table, and they don't get confused with the topic changes in the rest of the document.
Dear presenter, could you please conclude your research?
Yes.
Yes, true.
So the end users decided that, or provided some ideas. They were to divide the complex tables into smaller tables and to use headings. So the next step, this was the first iteration. The next step, to get a broader range of people, I'm going to partner with the Carroll Center for the Blind, who do have access to a broader list of people. We do need more education, and we do need more research done on this topic. I do publish all of the raw research on my website if anyone wants to look at any of the research surveys that I've done in the past. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This side, Professor James Stephen. Apologies for my delay. That's a very good presentation. Can you mention quickly one or two limitations your system has and your future plans for to overcome?
The limitations that my survey had or the table nav idea has?
I'm just talking about your entire work. Certainly, there would be some limitations, right? You, some challenges, some limitations.
Yes, the main limitation that I do have is that it's difficult to get the surveys out to people who use screen readers. I'm not on a lot of social media platforms, which is why I'm going to be partnering with the Carroll Center for the Blind, because they have an extensive database of people who are blind or visually disabled, as well as having other disabilities. So this START survey had only 13 respondents, but with a partnership to someone who has a broader database, I'm looking for more input. The other limitation is, and it's one of the things that I asked in terms of solution, is I'm not sure that the people who participated in the survey could really access complex data tables, because the feedback that came from the survey was more related to basic or simple tables. There was no mention of any of the complex issues. So I'm wondering even how much information is being missed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. If you have any other questions, you can quickly ask it. And that's my concern, because the sample rate is very low to establish the efficacy of any system. You know, the sample rate is very important. But the number of samples you're mentioning probably too low. You need to do something about it.
Yes, and I plan to. Yes.
Right. I think we can go to the next presenter, and it's my request to all the presenters to keep an eye on over the time. And if you can leave a couple of minutes for Q&A, that would be more helpful to every participant in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your presentation. Yeah, I would request all the participants to adhere to the time limit also. So moving on to our next presentation, we have our next presentation on analysis of the use of LKT for the teaching of physical education in the General Unified High School. Dear presenter, could you please start with your presentation?
Yes. I'll be sharing my presentation in a moment.
Yeah.
I'd send the request. Okay, thank you. Okay, so can I have an indication of me being audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please start with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my presentation? Is my presentation visible?
Yes, your presentation is visible. Please start.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Norma, and today I will be discussing the use of learning and knowledge technologies of LKT in physical education within the General Unified High School curriculum. We will explore how digital tools impact in physical education, the methodologies used in our study, and the key findings and the implications for educators and students alike. So, this is the agenda that we will be discussing today. So, just a minute. Okay. So, as you can see in the agenda, we have various parts of this presentation. So there is a problem-related works, proposal, approach and methodology, results, conclusions, and further research. At the end, there will be questions and answers. So let's begin by the problem. In today's digital era, learning and knowledge technologies have transformed education. These tools enhance accessibility by creating the dynamic learning experiences and personalized education. However, not all the students have access to these resources, and their integration into subjects like physical education remains a challenge. So our research addresses this gap by examining the implementation and impact of LKT in physical education. So what are the related works? Numerous studies have examined the use of technology in education, but fewer focus on physical education. Existing research highlights the potential of digital tools to enhance engagement, motivation, and skill development. However, challenges such as digital accessibility and educator training remain significant barriers. In terms of the proposal, our proposal aims to analyze how LKT can be effectively incorporated into physical education, ensuring that students benefit from technology-driven learning. This includes identifying the most useful tools, evaluating students' experiences, and assessing whether these technologies contribute to better learning outcomes and engagement in physical activity. So let's move on to the methodology that we used. To conduct our research, we used a descriptive analysis approach with a cross-sectional field investigation. Our study involved 84 high school students aged 15 to 16. We collected data using direct observation and a structured questionnaire, which contained 17 questions, divided into two sections. The first one was on general physical education, and the other on the use of LKT. The process, let me show you the protocols that we used. Talking about the research process, it followed these key steps that you can see on the slide as protocols. First, the selection of the study sample. Second, the socialization of research objectives. 3, direct observation of students. 4, fieldwork. 5, validation of survey questions by experts. 6, survey administration. 7, data processing using SPSS software. And 8, statistical analysis using Cranbach's alpha. And finally, final validation of research instruments. So what did we use in order to do the validation of our instruments? In order to do that, it was important for us to ensure the reliability of our questionnaire. We applied the Cranbach's alpha statistical method. The result was that a reliability score of 7.49 confirmed that our instrument was reliable for measuring students' perceptions and experiences with LKT in physical education. So, what are the results? Our results show that students have a strong positive perceptions of physical education. The majority of students reporting high levels of satisfaction with the subject, recognizing its role in developing skills and motor abilities. These findings indicate that physical education remains a valued part of the curriculum, as you can see from the slide on screen. The next result has to do with student satisfaction with physical education. Our results, satisfaction with LKT in physical education. We found that 48% of the students were very satisfied in LKT in physical education, while 37% were satisfied. Only a small percentage were neutral or dissatisfied, suggesting that LKT positively influences students' learning experiences. So moving on, this slide presents the results, the key results of LKT at home. Regarding the use of LKT at home for physical education activities, 60% of students reported being very satisfied, while 39% were satisfied. This demonstrates that digital tools are being effectively used beyond classroom and supporting independent learning. The next slide shows the key results in terms of communication tools. So when asked about preferred communication tools for physical education, 80% of students reporting using WhatsApp, followed by Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Messenger. This highlights the importance of mobile-friendly, cost-effective communication tools in education. Now, the conclusions. Our research led to several key conclusions. The majority of students enjoyed physical education and recognized its benefits. Secondly, around 94% of students expressed satisfaction with LKT in physical education, showing that digital tools enhance learning. Thirdly, WhatsApp is the most widely used communication platform for academic purposes. In addition, it was found that high school students prefer using free technological tools, aligning with the realities of public education systems. Overall, our findings confirm that integrating LKT into physical education significantly enhances engagement and learning outcomes. Before concluding, I would like to acknowledge everyone who contributed this study, including our participants, colleagues, and mentors. Thank you all for your time and attention. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Sir, any questions?
Yeah, the work is a bit interesting. Any future scope for your work, or is this the only one that you concluded?
Yes, future studies could focus on long-term impact of LKT on students' physical activity levels and skill development. So that would be our interest in the future. Are there any other questions? Because our focus is to prioritize free tools because we're working with limited sources, high school institutions. So by prioritizing free tools, using mobile-friendly platforms, and providing basic digital literacy, and training our students and teachers to use all of those things would be amazing to have a higher level and of skill development in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Moving on to the next presentation, we have,
Yes. Can you hear my voice?
yeah, we have
Okay.
dataset generating methods for best facial expression classification in machine learning. Dear presenter, could you please start with your presentation?
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible. You may please start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert, and in this opportunity, I would like to present my study about dataset generating methods for best facial expression classification in machine learning. So, in human-robot interaction, facial expression are the most important feature to obtain effective information. As you can see, according to my study, 55% effective information is conveyed through facial expression. So, effective facial expression recognition enables social robots to engage properly in human-robot interaction. So, in order for robot or machine to recognize facial expression, there are three steps involved. First is preprocessing, second, feature extraction, and the third is classification. So, in the study, we propose various scenarios from preprocessing, feature extraction, and classification using Taiwanese facial expression image dataset to determine the best way for machine to be able to classify human face expression. Okay, so in the study, we use two methods of RGB to grayscale conversion. First is using Y value from YCBCR, and I name it Y grayscale. Second is using V value from HHV, and I name it V grayscale. Next, I'm using Fileja's algorithm, and this is used for face detection. Next, there is two methods of feature extraction. First is local binary pattern, and the second is local monotonic pattern. And lastly is two methods of classification. First is support vector machine, and the second is convolutional neural network. So this is the dataset scenario where in this scenario, I will forming a various dataset with different process. So in this first scenario, I'm focusing on resizing first and then doing the feature extraction last. So as you can see, the process first is resizing and then color conversion and then feature extraction. But there is a divide path or process. The first is 1A and the second is 1B. So the differences between 1A and 1B is basically 1B using face detection while 1A is without face detection. And then next, there is a second dataset scenario where in this scenario, I'm focusing on feature extraction first and then resizing last. So as you can see, there is a color conversion, feature extraction, and then lastly, resizing. And as you can see, it has similar process. So there's 2A and 2B. So 2A is without face detection and 2B is with face detection. This is the result of the dataset scenario. And as you can see there's differences between 1A and 2A and 1B to 2B, except for the first row of 1A and 2A. And then after I form the dataset, there is a model scenario So in this scenario, we group the dataset into two categories. So the first category is dataset with feature extraction, and the second is dataset without feature extraction. So the dataset with feature extraction will be used for both SVM and CNN classification model, while the dataset without feature extraction will be used only for CNN. But before using the dataset to SVM and CNN, there is an additional process. For SVM, there is regional histogram, and for CNN, there is a dataset augmentation. So this is the first SVM testing result. And as you can see, there is the first dataset scenario has a higher accuracy in average compared to the second scenario. And the best performing model is using 1B3 dataset, which using Y grayscale and local monotonic pattern, feature extraction, and with face detection. And then I further testing the SVM with combined dataset. So the first one is I combine all LBP dataset with and without face detection. The second, I combine all LMP dataset with and without face detection. And the third is I combine LBP and LMP feature extraction with and without face detection. And lastly is LBP and LMP with face detection. And as you can see, the result is similar to the previous. As you can see, the highest accuracy kernel is using either linear kernel or sigmoid kernel. And in the second is similar to using a linear kernel or sigmoid kernel. And the best dataset is using LBP, LMP with face detection, the fourth one. And then next, I'm testing it on CNN. So there is, as you can see, the accuracy using dataset without feature extraction has higher accuracy in average compared to testing it with dataset using feature extraction. And the best dataset is using 2B1, which is using Y grayscale and face detection. And then I further testing it again using combined dataset. So I combine all grayscale dataset with and without face detection. And then second is using all LVP dataset. The third is using all LMP dataset. The fourth is using combine of LMP and LBP dataset. And lastly is all grayscale dataset with face detection. And as you can see, the result is similar with the previous result. So the CNN is yield higher accuracy using dataset without feature extraction, while using LVP, LNP is yield lower accuracy. So based on the result, in the first SVM testing, the scenario 1, which is resizing first and then feature extraction, has better testing accuracy compared to the scenario 2. And for the second SVM testing, the combining dataset with LBP and LMP feature extraction and face detection yield higher accuracy. In the first CNN testing, CNN is work better on raw image, which means is no feature extraction. And for the second CNN testing, it proved further that CNN works better on raw image. So for the SVM, the best accuracy is in 83.04% using combined feature of LMP and LVP and face detection dataset. And for the CNN, the best accuracy is in 82.40% using Y grayscale with face detection dataset. And for the improvement, it could add some more dataset facial expression of different race. The second maybe could using a better face detection. And the third is maybe adding additional CNN architecture for further comparison. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope this study were informative. Feel free to ask the question. Thank you once again.
That's a good presentation. Highly appreciated. So, what are the different experiments? I didn't come across. Can you show the experiments and the results? Did you do any comparative study? There's a lot of
Yes.
literature on CNN and so on.
So actually, there is a comparison between other study but I didn't show it in the.
Yeah. That's very important, because when you establish the efficacy of a system, it's very important to present at least couple of comparative study, etc. Because you're using SVM and CNN. Those are the regular algorithms, right? Select vector emission and this neural networks, etc. It would be nice. So take that suggestion, and if the participants have any other suggestions, you can go ahead. Done from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the advice. So is there any question?
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. I hope there's no question right now. So moving on to our, thank you so much for your presentation. Moving on to our next presentation. Um, we have a syntax constraint aware of a scabbard syntactic knowledge as a ground truth supervisor of attention mechanism via augmented Lagrange multipliers. Dear presenter, could you please start with your presentation?
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Okay. So do you see my presentation?
Yes, your presentation is visible.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tufik, and I will be presenting Scabbard, which stands for Syntax Constraint Aware BERT. We will go through the following outline. So introduction, then we will discuss the problematics. After that, hypothesis. Then we will discuss some details about Scabbard, which is a variant of BERT. And we will end up with some experiments and conclusion. Well, as you know, there are two main strategies to train LLMs models. The first one is masked language modeling, like BERT, and the second category of the training strategies is the causal language modeling, just like GPT. Scabbard belongs to the first category, which is the masked language modeling. Okay, so an LLM is a data-driven neural model that maximizes the likelihood probability of words occurrence given some context words, which allow LLM to encode the distributional meaning of words into vectors. Okay, so we have some criticism about LLMs. So we wonder, particularly the language masking strategy. We wonder whether is random masking the appropriate strategy to encode the meaning of words. The second question is, can we trust this random masking strategy? Also, we wonder if we can interpret the words representation vectors at the end of the training. And the final question is, how opaque is this random masking strategy? So here we talk about opacity, and interpretability of LLMs. Okay, so we formulate the following hypothesis. This is the theoretical foundation of our work. So we believe that by forcing an LLM model to be supervised by expert knowledge using constraint-based attention mechanism will contribute to enhance the word's meaning encoding process. Also, it will help to reduce the opacity of the LLM model, and it will reduce the training time. Okay, so what if we use the syntactic knowledge as a ground truth to supervise our LLM? Here we have a sentence. We parse this sentence syntactically using spaCy, and we get the syntactic tree. Based on this syntactic tree, we build up our graph. Then we build an adjacency matrix of the syntactic graph. So we have the words of the sentence. Zeros means that both words have semantic relationship, but not syntactic one. And ones, both words have a syntactic relationship. And this is our way how to encode this expert knowledge, which is a linguistic knowledge, and we need to use it as a ground truth to supervise our model. Okay, so we have customized the prediction head of BERT in order to predict a matrix rather than a vector. So we have the predicted matrix, and we will compute the loss function with the adjacency matrix. So we name our predicted matrix A, and we have the ground truth adjacency matrix, which is M, and we compute the loss functions in order to minimize it. Okay, so the loss function is computed as following. We use the Frobenius norm to compute the loss function between the two matrices. In the original paper, authors use gradient descent optimization along the encoder's stack from the 0 level until the prediction layer. Here we propose to use a hybrid optimization techniques. The first one is gradient descent, but it ends at the last encoder of BERT, and the second one starts at the prediction layers, which is augmented Lagrange multipliers optimization approach. So why we use this? Augmented Lagrange is a convex optimization problem. So it deals with convex optimization problems. It introduces also constraint-based optimization, and it helps to converge quickly due to Lagrange multipliers with penalization in order to supervise BERT. And let's mention that it does converge quickly when we have about 1 and 2 constraints, and it becomes longer if we add more constraints. And here we have the formulation of Lagrange, and we will discuss the details. So the first term, the objective function, which is the loss function, so we need to minimize it. And the second term measures the constraint violation degree, how much we violate the constraint we impose. The third term serves as a penalization when the predicted adjacency matrix A diverges from the target adjacency matrix M. Mu is a hyperparameters, which is 0.1 in our case. Lambda is the vector that which is the represent the Lagrangian multipliers, and they represent the importance of words in the sentence. It's like a score. Okay, now we need to grant a balance between the objective functions, which is the loss function, and the constraint satisfaction. So we first compute the constraint violation degree between A and M in the G function. Now we update the Lagrange multiplier by considering the penalization, which is GA function. Then we compute the total loss. We still in the prediction layer of BERT, and we compute the total loss. Now we compute the gradient of total loss with respect to A. So at the end, we will update A matrix that we have predicted already. We update it based on computing our gradients. Now, during the back propagation, we keep the same optimization algorithm, which is descent gradient. Gradients are calculated based on the loss relative to the output A, and these gradients indicate how variations in A affect the overall loss, providing information on how to adjust weights in all encoder layers. So using the chain rule, gradients of loss with respect to encoders' weights can be calculated by tracing the layers of the model. So we compute now the gradients with respect to WQ matrix, WK, and WV along the stack of encoders. Okay, given that BERT was trained in approximately 4 days using 16 TPUs, that is the original model, while Scabbard took 6 days from scratch, training from scratch, 6 days using only 8 GPUs. So the longer training time for Scabbard is expected because of the number of the user GPUs. However, we observe that constraint-based approach made the training time faster. This reflects the efficiency of the constraint-based optimization with augmented Lagrange. So it has been trained on the same.
Could you please conclude your research?
Okay, I'm at the end. So we have outperformed the results given by BERT, and Scabbard shows high performance on the aging use dataset on a classification task. Thank you. So conclusion, by integrating constraint in training, Scabbard make training time shorter. By integrating constraint, we force BERT to converge to the encoded syntactic quickly. Scabbard shows the importance of merging a top-down approach with a bottom-up approach. Thank you. Do you have any question?
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do we have any questions?
I think participants can ask any question, please. Not from my side.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on to our next presentation, we have transfer and application of artificial intelligence technology in digital marketing strategy of Latvian companies. Dear presenter, could you please start with your presentation?
Good evening. Yep, my name is Liene Kaibe, and today I will present our paper, Transfer and Application of Artificial Intelligence Technology in Digital Marketing Strategy of Latvian Companies. And this paper is part of a project. So the aim of this study is to investigate and analyze the possibilities of using artificial intelligence in digital marketing strategy in Latvian companies. To reach the aim, we conducted expert interviews and survey, online survey with more than 500 participants, Latvian consumers. When we are talking about using AI in digital marketing, we are talking about natural language processing and sentiment analysis, image and video analysis, predictive analytics, and marketing automation, for example, audience segmentation and content planning. Also, we are talking about personalized communication planning, chatbots and virtual assistants for customer services, and image, text, music creation, which is really a hot topic right now, at least in Latvia. And when we are talking about this research and results, here you can see image for how respondents' exposure to AI tools. As we can see, consumers most often encounter navigation programs like Google Maps and Waze, facial recognition on mobile phones, voice assistants, Siri, Amazon, chatbots in different web shops. They see tailored social media algorithms, but less they see email filtering, personalized ads, and created images, and also online product trials, which was, I would say, important topic in COVID time, at least in Latvia, these online product trials. Here is another picture and respondents' attitude towards the use of AI. Consumers generally have a fairly positive attitude towards the use of AI, and the company should inform me as a customer if it uses AI in its daily work. Consumers support companies introducing AI into their daily processes. I'm concerned about companies collecting, storing, and using my data. I believe that AI can find products or services that are right for me. I believe that robots are able to do jobs more efficiently and will do that. I like to receive personalized marketing content. Another picture, what is expected from the company, from consumers in Latvia. They expect convenient and fast online shopping, accessible information on how users' data will be used, and some parts of respondents also want convenient chatbot and personalized offers. And a few conclusions from this research: the transfer of AI technology into digital marketing strategy gives companies the opportunity to gain a competitive advantage in achieving their digital marketing objectives and reducing errors in the marketing process. Latvian companies' use of AI is hampered by the country's small market and late technology adoption, but this allows them to learn from the experience of other countries and can be overcome by promoting technology transfer. When selecting AI tools, companies should consider human capacity, target audience, product specificity, and budget. AI will not completely replace marketers, but complement them by replacing routine tasks. Marketers need skills and knowledge such as self-learning, self-motivation, the ability to never tire of learning, computer literacy, strong data analysis skills, and creative thinking. companies using AI need to pay attention to ethical considerations and ensure that the data is used in appropriately and safely. AI's weaknesses include its inability to create a sense of reality, lack of creativity, and emotional intelligence. Quality issues in both text and image generation, and lack of understanding of context and cultural nuances. Using AI, the consumer experience is enjoyed through behavioral targeting automation in this shopping process and personalized approach in various aspects, and the use of virtual assistants. And some proposals for company manager investing time and resources in educating employees about artificial intelligence and its potential in the company's industry in order to understand what opportunities and advantages it could bring to the company, promoting technology transfer and encouraging the education of marketing specialists. For marketing managers to integrate artificial intelligence into digital marketing processes, determining that what are the needs, goals, and knowledge and abilities of human resource, as well as how artificial intelligence could help in achieving these goals. The specifics of the product, the peculiarities of the market segment. For marketing manager, using AI technologies and tools provide customers with convenient and fast shopping, save time on tasks that can be automated, provide customers with a more personalized approach to improve their experience, and also ensure faster and easier access to information and products. For marketing managers, informing customers about how their data is used and how their privacy is protected to ensure full clarity and confidence in the company's operations. For digital marketing specialists, it is important to not to rely completely on AI tools and technologies because several human abilities that also apply to digital marketing are dispensable. For example, human creativity, intuition, emotions, ability to adapt to difficult situations, and so on. For digital marketing specialists, it's crucial to draw attention to the weakness of AI in digital marketing, such as lack of sense of reality, the lack of text and image generation quality, and the lack of emotional intelligence and creativity. And also, one proposal is to data security professional and IT manager should protect AI and systems against cyber attacks to prevent data manipulation and distortion, to ensure that AI use the data securely and avoid some distribution of data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentations. Sir, any questions?
Yeah, I think we are running out of time. I think we can go to the next presentation, please.
Yeah.
If participants have any questions, I'm open for that.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, please, you may. Okay. Moving on to our next presentation. We have VPNs, virtual private networks for securing public Wi-Fi. Dear presenter, could you please start with your presentation?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. Let me just try to share my screen. I seem to have difficulties finding the menu option to share my screen. Yeah, sorry, I don't think I have the, oh, never mind, I found it. Can you Can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is visible. You may please start with your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Kucho Libea, and the presentation we're going to give today is VPNs, virtual private networks for securing public Wi-Fi. So this is work that is done by an honors student of mine who unfortunately could not make it for the presentation. So I'm going to give a very high level view of the paper. And then if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah, okay. So how the presentation is going to go is we're going to start with an introduction, then we're going to introduce a case study where the research, the literature review was based on. Then we're going to look at the backgrounds of VPNs and how VPNs work. So the idea behind the research was to see if there are any significant differences in the way that VPNs are set up, depending on what the use of that VPN is, and to find out if there's any way that you can circumvent the known shortfalls of traditional VPNs. And then in some of our future work is to actually find people who are using different VPNs for different reasons and do some sort of survey to find out if what we found out from a practical point of view is the same as what's happening on the ground. So the introduction pretty much goes back to why virtual private networks, and is simply because of the interconnectedness. And some of the speakers already spoke about the time when we were still in lockdown due to the coronavirus, and a lot of us had to do our work remotely, similar to how we are presenting in this conference right now. So more connections lead to the need to protect data, as the previous speaker mentioned, from customer data. This would be different type of data to say, how do we ensure that the information that we send back and forth is secure and is not being tampered with, especially when we are streaming it, or especially when we are transmitting it off using an unbounded medium. So the general definition of VPNs is they are networks built to overlay over public infrastructure of one or more providers to permit access between a defined set of devices. So ideally, you would have some sort of VPN client on your device, and then the device that you're trying to access, on the other hand, would have a similar client on their side, and then there would be a tunnel that gets opened between the two devices. It also makes it easier for you to access things like SharePoints, and makes it seem like you are in the vicinity of the server that you're trying to connect to, even though you're not. So the case study that we used in this paper is the case study of CJ. It's general remote worker who needs to use public Wi-Fi for one or other reason. And then some of the issues that he potentially could run into are well documented in the literature that we looked at. So most of the connections would suffer from a man-in-the-middle attack, an evil twin attack, or a malware injection. So with the use of a VPN will create a secure tunnel between the user and the VPN node, or where it's going to ping off of, and then give them direct access to the internet. So this is just an overview of how the technology is meant to be used. So even if there was one of these three attacks that was aimed at the user, it would not be as successful because of the way that the VPN tunneling works. Okay, so the background of VPNs is generally how they work would be your device would be on the end, and then it needs to be running a VPN client on it. And then you get your VPN tunneling given to you by some sort of service provider. So again, the biggest part of this that we're looking at is the fact that advertisers, government agencies, and hackers will not be able to read the data that is being sent back and forth between your device and whatever internet source you're trying to get your information from. So as I said, it's very high level. The paper goes into more detail as to how these systems work. And then which provider to choose. So because there's a number of VPN service providers out there, generally the question that we get is, which VPN should we choose? And the literature review has proven that there is no silver bullet. As much as the marketing for some of these companies would have you believe, it comes down to what it is that you're doing and what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you not willing to sacrifice. So based on those, we kind of looked at some pros and cons of different VPNs. And on the lower spectrum is once you start using a VPN, you need to accept that you're going to have slower internet speeds. It's because of the overhead of the VPN and all of the extra processing that your data now needs to go through in order for it to be passed from your device to the other side of the device. And then you have potential security risks, and these would be one of the things that VPNs from a marketing point of view will advertise is anonymity. And the anonymity is not necessarily what they advertise on their branding, because there is no such thing as total anonymity on the internet. It's pseudo anonymity at best. And then you do have some of them that say they don't log your information. Meanwhile, they are logging your information. And usually you do get some malicious VPNs, which are usually the ones that are free or untrusted, where you should not be just connecting to any VPN, because most of them have a black box of how they go about encrypting and decrypting your information in transit. And then the other one would be legal and policy restrictions. So there are some countries, for argument's sake, China, Russia, and the UAE are some of the countries that have banned VPN usage. Not to say that most VPNs don't have nodes in those countries, but if you are found using those, it could lead to some legal issues. And compatibility issues just speaks to the devices that you are using, if they are compatible with that specific type of VPN. You do get some VPNs that are specifically mobile orientated and some that are PC and desktop orientated. So that's something you would need to look at. Also, the operating systems that are being used on the computers, if it's Android, if it's iOS, if it's Linux or a Windows machine. And the cost and subscription fees. Obviously, if you're doing it the right way, you would come down to some cost and or a subscription fee, depending on how many devices you want connected. The level of security and all of that will dictate what the pricing is going to be. And obviously increased latency for online gaming and streaming. So there are some VPNs if you want to do specifically gaming and online streaming, which streamline this process. And some of the advantages would be obviously an enhanced online privacy. And you'll see that we use the terms enhanced online privacy and not necessarily anonymity, because you can still be tracked down if you are using a VPN, if the people that are looking for you have the right resources. And then obviously stronger security. It's not going to be as easy to get to your information as it would have been if you did not use a VPN. And then access to geo-restricted content. So obviously if you're going to ping a server that's in the UK, for argument's sake, you would be able to consume some of that content. Most of the streaming services have started to see that this is a problem, and they've found countermeasures to it. Things like finding out if you are using a VPN, and then obviously secure remote work that works well with the case study that we used in the paper. And then it would prevent bandwidth throttling, safer online transaction, and then bypassing price discrimination, which is something that we found very interesting to go, if you are in a certain region or in a certain country, you're looking for specific goods, they tend to be more expensive if you are in the affluent parts of the country, or if you are in first world countries, as opposed to if you're in third world countries. So if you do have the time, just look at it on Amazon, for argument's sake. If you do have a VPN, try and access it from the UK, and then maybe try and access it from South Africa, and you'll see that the same product will have different prices depending on where in the world that you are looking at it from. So what is the idea is that, once again, to compare these different VPNs and look at how they work, look at which ones are black boxes, which ones use which method of encryption. Then ideally is to have some sort of go-to guide to give end users an idea of, if this is the type of work that you're trying to do, this would be the ideal VPN for you for these reasons. So we're going to look at it from a paid versus bundled point of view, look at the different implementations, and do recommendations for different people in different scenarios. And I see I've done just about 10 minutes. So yeah, and that is the end of my presentation. So if you do want to reach out, that is my email address. As mentioned, this is mostly work done by a student of mine. So I was only able to give a high level view of what she was doing, and hopefully in future publications, she will be here to give more information on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Sir, you have any questions?
Yeah, I think that's a good presentation. I think we can proceed to the next one, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. So this brings us to the end of our presentations. I would request our session chairs if you could share your insights and feedback on our presentations today.
Yeah, you want me to share it now?
Yes, sir. A few
Yeah,
remarks.
this is very interesting. How I've been attending this conference, maybe probably for the last at least 7 to 8 years, and I really appreciate the commitment of the organizers. They did a fantastic job. It's not so easy organizing, because I know I saw the university as a registrar for some time, dean for some time, organizing various conferences. It's an hectic job. But for the call, but for the commitment they do have, especially Dr. Amit and his team, Chahar and all the remaining stuff, and today's facilitator and so on. And it should be appreciated. And I wish this ICICT would continue for a long time, because it's generating synergy. And I have seen a lot of energy in all the participants, but we must admit none of us is better than all of us. So when we come together, when we learn from each other, right? One horse can pull 1 ton, two horses can pull not 2 tons, but 10 tons. So when we learn from each other, see, it's not cheering. Sorry, I'm suffering with a little flu. Chairing a session is always a joy, because, a good teacher is always a good learner. Every time I attend these chairing a session, certainly there are a few takeaways. And I hope everyone who participated so patiently should have definitely have good takeaways from this conference. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity year after the year. And thank you. It's my joy always to join with this team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We have Professor Kwong also with us. So you have any, you can share your insights as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for our presenter today. It's a great honor and pleasure to listen to your very interesting findings from your research. Through the many conference, I see as well a very good originality in your research in a field that I really love to listen. And I wish you all the best for your research career. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable remarks. I sincerely thank our authors for their excellent presentations and contribution in this session, and all our participants for being a part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative enough. We, on the behalf of the whole team, thank you for the support during this 10th version and all the previous 9 versions of the conference. We would be happy to have you all in the 11th version in 2026. All the presenters would be getting their digital certificates through email within 2 working days. Further, all the papers have already been forwarded to the Springer. The publication would be live within 6 months. Kindly cooperate with the team of ICICT 2025. I would like to thank our session chairs for chairing the session. A token of appreciation to the chair on behalf of the team ICICT 2025 and Global Knowledge Research Foundation and partners. Thank you for your valuable presence. I would kindly request all of you to please switch on your camera so that we can have a quick snapshot of the virtual conference. Thank you. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.
That's good.